Number 5, Patchface. Alright, so somewhere in between the ridiculous comic relief characters that you can't possibly take seriously, and the creepy keep you up at night after reading characters, is Patchface. Patchface got his name in Volantis, where it's custom to tattoo the faces of slaves and jesters. I guess you can think of it kind of like cattle branding. Despite his lot in life, though, he was an exceptionally clever and jovial boy with a wicked sense of humor. One day Lord Stefan Baratheon and his wife came across him while they were visiting in Volantis, and they bought his freedom, wanting to take him back to their home at Storm's End. Probably because they thought he would make an upbeat friend and companion for their young middle son Stannis, who, even in his youth, was a bit of a stick in the mud. But before pulling into port at their home of Storm's End, their ship broke apart on the rocks, leaving only one survivor. 3 days later, Patchface washed up naked on shore. His skin was cold, white, and bloated, but he was alive nonetheless, with no memory of what had happened, and his senses abandoned, now only speaking in incoherent rhymes and riddles. To this day, he still talks about a mysterious place under the sea, where it's always summer and crabs serve mermaid starfish soup. But it gets creepier. Just listen to this.
Fool's blood, king's blood, blood in the maiden's thigh, but chains for the guests and shades for the bridegroom. Aye.
So, here's where you can go crazy with the conspiracy theories. Had Patchface predicted the Red Wedding before it had happened? In fact, if you look at a lot of the weird things he says, quite a few of them have arguably predicted something. So, why no Patchface on the show? Well, the thing is, whenever you throw down the prophecy card in fiction, you're playing with a whole new kind of fire narratively. It's such a delicate balance because while foreshadowing can be a lot of fun, especially in fantasy, screw up and you just gave away all the cards in your hand. It needs to be clear enough that your audience can go back after the fact and see the clues, but not so obvious that they can make a pretty clear judgment call on what's gonna happen. It's not easy. Many novel and screenwriters spend their entire careers trying to perfect this. It sucks that by cutting him, they cut yet another mysterious element to the story, but unless they had a concrete plan as to how to go about Patchface, it might be for the best that he was looked over. Number 4, Reek. Now, when I say Reek, I don't mean Theon after he got the Ramsay treatment. Let's go back a bit. Ramsay Snow is, of course, Roose Bolton's bastard, born from Roose's rape of a lowborn woman. The woman and Roose later worked out a deal that she could get whatever support she needed in order to raise their son, in exchange for not telling any members of House Stark what had gone on. This included a servant named Reek, a boy with a constant body odor despite bathing 3 times a day and wearing perfume. The condition he probably has is what we know nowadays as trimethylene a metabolic condition that still doesn't have a cure, actually. While Roose originally wanted to send Reek to Ramsay and his mother as a joke, the two of them became extremely close friends. As we already know, Ramsay has some pretty sick ideals, and as the two got older, they began to go on hunts together. But not for wildlife. During one of these hunts, the pair were pursued by Roderick Castle, attempting to bring Ramsay to justice for his murder of Lady Dondella Hornwood. But, with one of their horses having gone lame, Ramsay quickly switched clothing with Reek and told him to ride back to the Dreadfort. This of course works out perfectly for Ramsay, as Sir Roderick's men are able to chase down and kill Reek dressed as Ramsay, while Ramsay dressed as Reek is captured and taken back to Winterfell. And, who just so happens to have taken over Winterfell at this point? Bingo. Kicking off Ramsay's manipulation and ultimate transformation of Theon into his new pet. While Reek might only be Ramsay's lackey in the books, his presence gives us a lot of insight into one of the cruelest characters in the series. The question that's always been on every reader's lips is, why is Ramsay the way he is? And I don't have a definitive answer to that. But here's something that's always intrigued me about Ramsay's relationship with his odorous other half. Why did Ramsay name Theon Reek? Sure, it could just be that he's super unoriginal when it comes to names, but it could also be that Ramsay misses his old friend, and maybe even feels guilty for sending him off to die. If he had named Theon Smelly or Gross, I wouldn't even be bringing it up, but he didn't. He gave him the same name as his childhood companion, and to me, I always saw that as the tiny spark of maybe even something human in Ramsay. Number 3. Willis and Garland Tyrell. Another set of siblings to tie for a spot on this list is Willis and Garland, older brothers to Loras and Marjorie Tyrell. Why I consider House Tyrell to be one of my favorites is partly because of these two. Willis as the heir to Highgarden is already shaping up to be a far more competent leader than his pretty derpy father Mace. Fiercely intelligent and well-read, Willis is known for his breeding of tournament horses, tracking hounds, and hunting hawks. A very valuable skill for someone from the Reach when you think about it. A big part of their economy deals with livestock. But I think what says the most about Willis as a character is what happened to him during his youth. In his first tournament, he was unhorsed by Oberyn Martell, but in a stroke of bad luck, his horse went down on top of him, shattering his leg and causing him to forever depend on a cane and leg brace to walk. Of course, this caused a lot of blame to be shot Oberyn's way, but Willis never held Oberyn in contempt for what was, after all, just a freak accident. And the two of them actually became really close pen pals. Garland, on the other hand, is a lot more like-minded to Loras, showing an interest and talent for martial pursuits, but unlike his younger brother, Garland has no interest in being a celebrity. Always seeing more value in preparing for a real fight on the battlefield, instead of an artificial one on the tournament grounds. Because of this, he trains daily against 3 or more opponents to better simulate an unfair fight in the heat of battle. But again, despite his feats, it's how he treats people that sets him apart. At Sansa and Tyrion's wedding, Garland dances with Sansa, trying to convince her that Tyrion is a better and more intelligent person than a lot of people give him credit for. Garland can see past the superficial. My guess is because he was overweight as a kid, and it took his older brother Willis to look past it and give him confidence by dubbing him Sir Garland the Gallant. Now, admit it, that is some seriously adorable brotherly love right there. I honestly think that the fact that they're both such nice guys actually worked against them getting into the show. HBO portrays House Tyrell as being more two-sided and sinister through Olenna and Marjorie. Willis and Garland are just a little bit too genuine and nice to complement that archetype. The nice guys in House Stark might finish last, but the nice guys in House Tyrell don't even get to show up to the race at all, it seems. Number 2, Donal Noye. Alright guys, because I have a good friend who loves Donal Noye to death, and even runs a Facebook page dedicated to him, I really wanted to give him the floor on this one. So, take it away, Phil.
Thanks, Danzie. Donal Noye was originally a smith for House Baratheon. 2 of his greatest creations were Stannis' first sword and Robert's warhammer. You know that huge warhammer which Ned says he couldn't lift? And if you bear in mind that Ned walked around with a pretty big greatsword, that's quite impressive. In the Siege of Storm's End during Robert's Rebellion, Noye lost his left arm and became a smith at Castle Black. We first see Noye when Jon is about to get his arse handed to him by the other Night's Watch recruits when he's being a bit of a dick to them. He lectures Jon on his arrogance and remarkably privileged upbringing. So now we skip ahead to the first Battle of Castle Black. It was Donal Noye who'd organised the defence, and specifically the use of burning oil to destroy the stairs, which was instrumental in repelling the Thenns. However, when Mag the Mighty, King of the Giants, started to breach the tunnel, Noye went to hold the line, just as Gren did in the show, and, well, ended up the same way as Gren did. So why is Noye on this list? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. He has one arm, and he took down a giant. And if you're wondering why this badass wasn't in the show, honestly, it comes down to the sheer number of minor characters at the wall. And whilst Noye is undoubtedly awesome, he doesn't add to the story the same way that Gren and Pip do, because they provide a companionship to Jon and make him far more relatable, whereas Noye acts as a father figure, a role which is already filled in some capacity by Lord Commander Mormont. It's a big shame that he wasn't in the show, but when you only have 10 hours and you can cast so many actors, it becomes quite apparent as to why they didn't cast him. And I feel that the changes they made in Season 4 to allow for the lack of Donal Noye were actually okay, despite most of the changes in Season 4 being quite problematic.
And finally, we get to number 1. Alright, HBO, here's where I stop making excuses for you. Come closer, I need to tell you something. No, closer, closer. Would you guys kindly mind telling me where the Cold Hands is? If you've only watched the show, then let me explain. Cold Hands is a mysterious hooded figure from beyond the wall that rides an elk and dresses in the typical black garb of the Night's Watch. A lot of evidence points to the fact that he's a white, with his hands turned a post-mortem black and his body smelling of decay. But the jury's still out on who or what he is, because unlike all the other whites, Cold Hands is seemingly intelligent and non-threatening to humans, even saving Sam and Gilly and Bran and the Reeds on several occasions beyond the wall. While I do share a pretty common theory on who he is, that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Cold Hands' absence enforces one of my bigger gripes with the show, and that's that it's slowly moving away from the fantasy elements of the books. Over the last 2 seasons of the show especially, there's been times where it's had the wall-to-wall dialogue flow of a courtroom drama, not a fantasy series. And don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to dramatic scenes at all between characters. I'm the first person to nerd out over how a character ticks or what their motives are. And while the book struck a great balance between the personal problems of its characters and its supernatural elements, it's something that the show just hasn't figured out yet. Did they think that a mysterious hooded dead guy riding an elk would bore audiences? And he's not just a visual. Along with serving as a guide for Bran and co., all you need to do is look at this guy, and it makes you question everything we know about the others and whites. We've been told time and time again that these things are ruthless killing machines, but now there's one going out of his way to help our heroes? It expands tenfold what the others are or could be. What worries me even more is that a lot of sources have pointed to the fact that another character in sort of the same vein as Cold Hands might be cut next season, as well as a few other important characters. And if that's the case, I'll probably be coming back to the topic of cut characters after season 5. But I really hope I don't have to. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe, and tell me below in the comments who your favorite character that never made it out of the books is. I've been Danzie, and I'll see you next time for a very special update and new Westeros brawls. Take care.